Have you ever heard of a prophet born in a farm, crippled by his father's first wife, and yet healed thousands by just praying? This is the untold and shocking true life story of Prophet Moses Orimolade Tunolase, the founder of the Cherubim Seraphim Church, a man of miracles, betrayal, pain, and unshakable faith. Over 100 years ago, in a quiet farm settlement near Ikore, in present-day Ondo State, Nigeria, a strange cry filled the air. It was 1909. The Tunolase family had just welcomed a baby boy. But this wasn't an ordinary birth. The labor had been long. The baby wouldn't come out. The midwives were panicking. But suddenly, a blinding light shone in the room, and a strange scent filled the air. The baby came out with his legs crossed and his body glowing. The frightened women ran away shouting, "This child is not ordinary." His father, Tunolase, was a traditional chief and herbalist. He named the baby Moses, saying, "This one will deliver his people like the Moses of the Bible." But little did they know, this child's life would be full of fire, battles, and glory. Moses' father had 2 wives. His first wife was jealous and bitter because she had no male child. When she saw how everyone celebrated Moses' birth, her heart turned black with envy. One night, when Moses was just a few weeks old, she did the unthinkable. She dropped him on the floor, hitting his delicate back. The boy screamed, but no one heard. By morning, baby Moses was crippled. Doctors and herbalists tried everything, but Moses couldn't walk. His legs never worked again. Though crippled, Moses was different. At age 3, he started speaking in full sentences. By age 5, he would sit quietly and pray for hours. His eyes saw visions. He spoke with heavenly authority. Birds and goats would gather around him when he sang. One day, he pointed at a dead lizard and said, "Rise." And the lizard came back to life. At night, Moses had strange dreams. One day, a huge angel appeared and told him, "You are called to raise an army of pure worshippers. You are to walk in the footsteps of the apostles and carry a lamp of holiness across Africa." He woke up sweating. He told his father, "I must serve the Most High." His father, a herbalist, was angry. But Moses left home, crawling. Yes, he crawled on his hands and knees from town to town, preaching repentance. And signs followed him. Everywhere he went, cripples walked, the blind saw, madmen became normal, and sick people were healed instantly. In Owo, a woman with a dead child strapped on her back met him. He prayed, and the child coughed back to life. In Akure, a madman who had terrorized the market for 3 years ran toward him screaming, then fell at his feet, weeping. In Benin, a shrine collapsed after he prayed in front of it. He never asked for money. He slept on bare floors. Sometimes, he went days without food. But the miracles never stopped. In 1925, while praying on a mountain near Ilorin, Moses had a voice. "Call my people into holiness and worship with angelic order. Call them Cherubim and Seraphim." He formed a prayer band. Women dressed in white. Men fasted and prayed. They wore no shoes during worship, to honor God. Soon, thousands joined from across Nigeria. The Cherubim and Seraphim Church was born. And Moses became Baba Aledura, the praying father. But with greatness, came jealousy. As the church grew, Moses' followers began fighting for power. Some accused him of witchcraft. Others said he was using juju. People he healed turned against him. Leaders wanted to control the church's money and split it into factions. He wept. He begged. But they wouldn't stop. In 1933, the unthinkable happened. He was locked out of the very church he built with prayer and tears. Broken and betrayed, Prophet Moses Orimolade took refuge in an Anglican church in Lagos. The pastors loved him and gave him a place to stay. He was weak. His health was failing. But he never stopped praying. On October 19, 1933, he called his last disciples and said, "I see angels, they are calling me home." He took his final breath in that Anglican church. The crippled boy who became a prophet died in peace. They didn't give him a grand funeral. No massive crowd. no state burial. He was quietly buried in a corner of the cemetery in Lagos, forgotten by many. Years passed. Grass covered his grave. His name was fading. But God wasn't finished with him. In the 1970s, many decades after his death, the Lagos government wanted to construct a major road. The road would pass through the cemetery where Orimolade was buried. Bulldozers were ready. But then, one night, workers heard a voice singing hymns from one grave. They ran. The next day, the same thing happened. Pastors were called. Elders remembered, that is where Prophet Orimolade was buried. The government ordered his body to be exhumed and taken back to Ekore, his birthplace. When the grave was opened, his body was still fresh, uncorrupted. The people wept. A great prophet had returned home. Today, the Cherubim Seraphim Church has millions of members across the world. Orimolade, the crippled farm boy, became a global symbol of faith. He never sought fame. He never walked with his legs. But he walked with God. And even in death, he could not be forgotten. Do you know why there are so many different C&S churches today, from Cherubim and Seraphim Movement, Sacred C&S, C&S AONIO, Eternal Sacred Order, to C&S Unification Church and many more? What really happened? This is the painful yet powerful story of how a church founded on holiness and angelic order became scattered across the world, and why, even in its division, its fire still burns. The Cherubim and Seraphim Church was not born like other churches. It was not built by colonial missionaries or Western influence. It was born on the mountain of prayer through the calling of a man who couldn't walk, Prophet Moses Orimolade Tunolase. From that tiny group of intercessors wearing white garments and walking barefoot, a spiritual movement began. The power was real. Miracles were shocking. People came from Lagos, Ilorin, Abeokuta, Benin, and beyond. Soon, the number of followers exploded. But with the growth came a big problem. Prophet Orimolade never cared about position, money, or fame. He just wanted to pray and win souls. But his followers, some wanted titles. Some wanted money control. Some wanted to be seen as co-founders. There was no constitution or written law. Everyone followed Orimolade's voice as final. But when more people joined, especially educated elites, teachers, and ex-Anglican members, they brought their own style of leadership. This began the first serious disagreement. Should this church remain purely spiritual, or should it be modernized? One of the biggest wounds in C&S history came when some key members of the movement, people who worked closely with Orimolade, decided to register their own version of the church without telling him. They took some members, took the name, and even claimed they had rights to lead the church. Orimolade was heartbroken. He said, "If I had known this is what they wanted, I would have given them everything. I only wanted to follow God." That was the first major split. Some formed the Eternal Sacred Order of the Cherubim and Seraphim, the Praying Band of C&S, the Society of C&S Women. It was like a spiritual civil war. As sad as the split was, something strange began to happen. Each group carried the fire of revival with them. They took it to towns and villages across Yorubaland, Lagos Island and mainland. Then to northern cities like Kaduna, Kano, and Jos. Then to Ghana, Sierra Leone, and even London and the US. C&S white garments were now seen everywhere. Yes, it was divided. But the gospel kept moving. After Orimolade died in 1933, the vacuum of leadership became deeper. There was no single person everyone could agree on. Instead of choosing a united leader, each group crowned their own spiritual head. Some followed Papa Abayedin Emmanuel. Others followed Baba Alau. Some moved with Mother Captain Abayedin Orimolade, his spiritual daughter. That was how more branches were created. Each wanted to honor Orimolade's legacy in their own way, but they couldn't agree on one voice. As the years passed and Nigeria entered the 60s and 70s, many C&S churches began to involve kings, politicians, and businessmen. This brought more resources, but also more politics. Who should be made a senior apostle? Who should control the offerings? Who should own the church land? Should they allow speaking in tongues? Should drums and modern instruments be used? The answers were never the same. So, more branches formed. C&S AONIO. C&S Movement Church. Sacred C&S Church. C&S Healing Ministry. C&S Unification Church. Each had their own constitution. Each had their own prophet or Baba Aledura. So, why are there still so many branches today? Here are the core reasons. Lack of centralized leadership after Orimolade's death. Human ego and desire for personal glory. Doctrinal disagreements. Some wanted modern style, others wanted old ways. Cultural differences. Some urban churches wanted to polish the church. Money and land issues, fights over property ownership. Spiritual jealousy, when one prophet becomes more powerful than the rest. Though the division caused pain, it also became a strange blessing. C&S is now in every country where Nigerians live. Many hospitals, schools, and prayer mountains came from different branches. Youths formed the C&S Unification Campus Fellowship. Young ministers like Tope Olobi, Ifil, and others passed through C&S. The church remains one of the most spiritually vibrant African churches today. In recent times, the C&S church leaders have started coming together. A movement called C&S Unification Council was formed to bring all branches under one umbrella of love, worship, and doctrine. They hold joint crusades. They share gospel materials. They preach peace and healing. The message is clear. We may wear different names, but we carry one spirit. Despite all the divisions, misunderstandings, and breakaways, one truth remains unshaken. The fire that Prophet Moses Orimolade started has not died. The name C&S still carries power, holiness, and heavenly order. He never asked for followers. He never built cathedrals. But today, his name is on millions of altars. And though many C&S churches may stand apart, they still carry the same divine instruction. Serve God with holiness, humility, and the order of heaven. If this story helped you understand the spiritual journey of the Cherubim and Seraphim Church, like this video, share with someone who wears white, and subscribe to Tale of the Motherland for more powerful African faith stories.